Although Chronicles is a historical book, it is not just a record of history. It contains rich theological messages and revelations. What message does God reveal through his book? And what relevance does this message have for us today? These questions lead us into genealogies of Chronicles.
When you open the book of Chronicles, the first thing that catches your eye is a variety of names. At first glance, you might find it tedious or difficult to understand, but in fact, it's not the case. It is these real, vivid names that bring the Israelites into a historical dialogue with God, allowing them to experience the faithfulness of God's promises and the wonder of his deeds throughout history. The first 9 chapters of 1 Chronicles are recorded in the form of genealogies, covering the history of Israel from Adam to the return from exile, taking up 1/4 of the entire book. These chapters can be divided into the following sections.
1. The genealogy of Adam, the ancestor of humanity. 2. The genealogies of Abraham and Israel. 3. The genealogies of Judah and his offspring. 4. The family of David. 5. The offspring of David. 6. The genealogy of the tribe of Simeon. 7. The genealogies of the 2.5 tribes east of Jordan, Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. 8. The genealogies of the tribe of Levi and the returned exiles. 9. The genealogies of the northern tribes. 10. The genealogies of the tribe of Benjamin and of King Saul. This section covers the ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel, from Adam to the 12 sons of Israel.
The materials for the first chapter of 1 Chronicles are taken from the genealogies in Genesis. The order is kept as close as possible to the original, but the author is very meticulous in his method of recording. He uses linear genealogies, also known as direct genealogies, to explain the chronological relationships, as well as collateral genealogies to explain lateral relationships between relatives. Non-mainline genealogies, such as the descendants of Cain, Nahor, and the daughters of Lot, are omitted.
The record spans 10 generations, from Adam to Noah and Noah's 3 sons, without detailing their deeds. As the author assumes, the readers are already familiar with these stories through oral tradition. Cain and Abel are not mentioned. Only the chosen lineage is recorded. Verses 5 to 23 list the descendants of Noah's 3 sons, divided into 3 linear genealogies. Each genealogy first lists the side branches and then the chosen line. In total, 70 names are listed, corresponding to the 70 names recorded in Genesis 10, regarding the descendants of Noah's sons and their dispersion across the earth.
In the Bible, 70 is an important number. The Israelites who went down to Egypt were 70 in number. Moses had 70 elders. In the New Testament, Jesus appointed 70 people and sent them out 2 by 2 to preach the gospel. The Jewish Sanhedrin in Jesus' time had 70 members, and the Greek translation of the Old Testament is known as the Septuagint, or translation of the 70.
Verses 24 to 27 also simply list names, recording 10 generations from Shem to Abraham, again as a linear genealogy. The difference here from Genesis is that the genealogy from Shem to Abram jumps directly to the point where Abram's name is changed, omitting the descendants of Abram's father Terah and his brother's descendants. In verse 28, the chosen lineage is given priority. Isaac is mentioned before Ishmael. Then verses 29 to 33 first records the descendants of Ishmael and then those of Keturah, Abraham's concubine, after Sarah's death. Verses 35 to 54 cover the genealogies of Esau, Seir, and Edom, highlighting their relationships. According to Genesis 36, 8-9, Esau is Edom. Esau, ancestor of the Edomites in the hill country of Seir. Mount Seir is located east of the Arabah Valley, south of the Dead Sea, extending to the Gulf of Aqaba. The original inhabitants were the Horites, descendants of Seir. The Edomites later occupied the region, incorporating the remaining Horites into Esau's descendants, expanding Edom's territory to both sides of the Arabah Valley, located between modern-day Jordan and Israel's Negev Desert.
In the Edomite territory along Mount Seir lies the vital trade route between the Arabian interior and the Mediterranean coast, including Petra, a famous tourist site known for its magnificent structures carved into rock caves built by the Nabateans. But after being conquered by Rome in the 2nd century, it gradually declined and eventually disappeared from the stage of history. The author devotes considerable space to Esau's descendants and the kings of Edom, likely due to Edom's importance at the time and its status as Israel's brother nation.
Chapter 2, verses 1-2, the focus to the genealogy of Israel, listing the 12 sons of Israel in the same order as in Genesis 35, 22-36. The subsequent genealogies focus primarily on the tribe of Judah, while the tribes of Zebulun and Dan are deliberately omitted. This section highlights several unflattering events in Judah's lineage. First, Judah's 2 sons, and Onan, who did evil in the guise of the Lord, were put to death by him. Then Judah's daughter-in-law, Tamar, bore him a son. Third, Achan, who sinned by taking the devoted things, caused trouble for the Israelites, a story recorded in Joshua 7.
The author does not hide these misdeeds, and later Tamar becomes an ancestor of Jesus Christ in the flesh. Additionally, in verse 18, Caleb, son of Hezron, is the ancestor of Hur and Bezalel. He is not the same Caleb as the son of Jephunneh recorded in 4:15, who was one of the 12 spies Moses sent to Canaan and, along with Joshua, believed in God's promise and advocated for the invasion of Canaan. Verses 18-20 record Bezalel's genealogy inserted after the royal genealogy, emphasizing the theme that kingship and worship are inseparable. In Exodus 35, 30-31, Moses says,
"See, the Lord has called by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. He has filled him with divine spirit, with skill, intelligence, and knowledge in every kind of craft." Chapter 3 includes verses 1-9, listing the sons born to David in Hebron and Jerusalem, and verses 10-24, the descendants of Solomon. There are 2 points that stand out. First, in verse 16, Jehoiakim, also called Coniah or Jeconiah, is the grandson of King Josiah and son of King Jehoiakim. He reigned for only 3 months before surrendering to King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon and being taken into captivity. The clay tablet of King Nebuchadnezzar, dated to 595 BC, which was the 10th year of his reign, and 3 years after his first capture of Jerusalem, records a food ration list for Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, and his 5 sons, listing details of barley, oil, and dates.
In the 2nd year of King Evil-Merodach Amel-Marduk of Babylon, 37 years after Jehoiakim was exiled, the king showed him favor and released him from prison. This event held deep significance for the exiled and returning people, as it showed that the royal lineage of David, chosen by God, still survived and was treated with kindness, offering hope for their return to their homeland and the rebuilding of their future.
The second point is the genealogy after the exile in verses 17 to 24. In verse 19, Zerubbabel's name means born in Babylon. He led the first group of exiles back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple, as recorded in Ezra chapter 2.
In the names of Zerubbabel's descendants, we see the hope of the returning exiles. For example, Meshullam means one who brings peace. Hananiah means the grace of the Lord. And Shalomith refers to peace. These names demonstrate their faith and hope.
In chapter 4, we see several highlights. First, the prayer of Jabez. Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, and his mother named him Jabez, saying, I gave birth to him in pain.
Jabez's name is associated with pain, yet his status was one of honor. We might wonder how pain is transformed into honor.
Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my border, and that your hand might be with me, and that you would keep me from hurt and harm. And God granted what he asked.
Jabez's prayer, tucked away in a long list of genealogies, often goes unnoticed, changed his life. But around the year 2000, it suddenly gained global attention, sparking much discussion. Jabez had no great accomplishments, and his prayer was simply for personal blessings, unlike the grand and visionary prayers elsewhere in Chronicles. Yet Jabez is the first person recorded in Chronicles as calling on God. This shows that the author intends for us to understand that God hears the prayers of humble, ordinary people, transforming their lives from sorrow to joy. In the same way, God can bless the lives of ordinary people like you and me.
Additionally, 1 Chronicles 4, 17 to 18 records a descendant of Judah named Merd, who married Pharaoh's daughter Bithiah and had children, indicating that he must have held a prominent position. The genealogy in chapter 4, verses 21 to 23, not only lists bloodlines but also includes details about places of residence, professions, and social status. This style is similar to the genealogies found in Ezra chapter 2. Therefore, some believe that the author of Chronicles is Ezra, who wrote for the Israelites returning from exile.
The genealogies in Chronicles are not only faithful to historical records, but also convey a continuous theological theme throughout the text, speaking to the exiled and returning Israelites as well as to us today. In the next station, we will continue exploring the genealogies of tribes other than Judah, along with the meanings behind their names.